Alright gentlemen, this is a video analysing Wilfred Owen's The Parable of the Old Man and the Young. As usual, I'll start by reading the poem and then giving you a little bit of information, then we'll get to the annotations themselves. So Abram rose and clave the wood, and went, and took the fire with him, and the knife. And as they sojourned both of them together, Isaac the firstborn spake, and said, My father, behold the preparations, fire and iron. But where the lamb for this burnt offering? Then Abram bound the youth with belts and straps, and builded parapets and trenches there, and stretched forth the knife to slay his son, when lo, an angel called him out of heaven, saying, Lay not thy hands upon the lad, neither do anything to him. Behold, a ram, caught in the thicket by its horns. Offer the ram of pride instead of him. But the old man would not so, but slew his son and half the seed of Europe, one by one. So the first thing we'll look at, as per usual, is the title. So a parable is a short story that is allegoric in its nature. So that means that it teaches a lesson or sometimes a moral. Now there's deeper meaning in the old man and the young. It's not just Abram and Isaac. The old man is representative of the world leaders that sent the men to war. The young obviously then would be the soldiers that went to war, the youth that went to war. Okay? So it uses the biblical story from Genesis of Abraham and Isaac. Instead of slaying the lamb when it offers to him, the old man kills his son, which is the youth of Europe, instead. The poem uses iambic pentameter, but is written in a blank verse, which adds to a solemn mood throughout the poem. Things include the incompetence of leaders and the waste of war. So for those of us not familiar with Genesis 22, which is the biblical passage that is referenced here it is here, but the Cliff Note sort of abridged version of it is Abraham is asked by God to make a sacrifice to kill his son. He prepares to do so. What's his name? Isaac asks, where is the lamb? And there is no lamb. Abraham keeps saying God will provide, God will provide. So he prepares to kill his son. An angel appears and goes, Don't lay a hand on this boy. Instead, look, there's a lamb over there. And so Abraham kills the lamb, and it shows that there is you should put your faith into God. That is one version of the story. I know that other religions have the same sort of story in different formats. We're using Genesis 22 because this is the story. This is the Bible verses that Owen himself would be familiar with. So we get to the poem itself. The poem starts off with this so, which is a conjunction. It lets us know that, we're in the middle of this story and we're sort of entering halfway through. We've got these, Abram. I said Abraham was used before. It's actually Abram. It's an extended metaphor for the men who start wars and control the troops. We've got these words here, clave, spake, behold, earlier, which is all archaic language that adds to the biblical context that Owen is creating here. Isaac, I've said it before, I'll say it again, represents the soldiers fighting the war, and again is part of this extended metaphor that goes throughout. Fire and iron. Okay, if you're going to complete a sacrifice, yes, you need fire, but you don't need iron. Okay, iron is something you need to fight a war. So that's Owen bringing this idea of war to his poetry, okay, to make sure that this biblical story is actually related to the war. So Isaac asks, but where the lamb for this burnt offering? And it's the question that the soldiers were asking, not exactly the same question, but they were asking, where is this glorious adventure we were promised instead of the conditions we're being faced? We're just running, we're seeing our friends run over the top and just get mowed down by machine guns. So the story moves on. Abram bounds the youth. Okay, that's the language that's used. It again brings in the idea of the soldiers. being bound by their duty. We've got this war language used, parapets and trenches, military jargon. Again, that same idea of placing this story in a wartime setting. Okay, so the imagery of the sacrifices here, this angel appears, this is all stuff that happens in the biblical verse as well. But the ram has a different name. It's the ram of pride. It's manipulating the original text, and it's the pride of the military leaders. Okay, so if they sacrifice their ego, their pride, everything they've invested in it, they are offered an opportunity to end the war. Okay, so Owen here is saying that World War I could have been prevented if people were less proud. Well, we've got this, before I get to the word but, I've put in the isolation of the last two lines, shows the departure from the biblical story. Okay, so this is where things get radically different. In the biblical story, Abraham would have killed the ram and, shown his faith in God and done what God had expected him to do. But we have this conjunction, which shows that Abram has made the unexpected choice. It's ironic that a father kills his son. Fathers are meant to protect their sons. Just like leaders, their duty is to protect their citizens as part of that, okay, offer their citizens the best possible life. We've got hyperbole and metaphor used here. So that idea of half the seed of Europe is the chance to populate the country after the war, okay? If these young men are dying in the war, who's going to populate it after the war? We've also got this rhyming couplet to end the poem, which really focuses the responder to the message of the poem, which is, this war could have been prevented had the leaders of the countries of Europe sacrificed their pride. They chose not to do that. They chose to sacrifice the individuals. So when you're looking at this poem, think about why would he use the biblical verse, and how has he manipulated it to make his point. Okay, thank you for watching. We will discuss later.